اللسان يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about ways in memorizing the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the month of Ramadan is coming, you realize that the month of Ramadan has many different names. Sometimes it has the name of the month of Ramadan. Can I pause for 1 minute to take a call? Hello, sorry. Okay, 1 minute. Yeah, sorry. Is the sound better now? I'm panting. Should I turn this one on? Is no one else? Assalamu alaikum. Is a mic test on Paltalk. Does it sound okay?
Low voice.
Low voice? What about the mic volume?
Yeah, it's all up.
All up, yeah?
This is good voice.
Good voice, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Going back to the topic, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Today, again, as I mentioned, we're going to cover the topic of 10 ways of memorizing the Quran. The Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan, and the month of Ramadan is coming very soon. The month of Ramadan is around about 6 months away, and you'll be quite eager to have this month. It's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have Ramadan, to live in the month of Ramadan. And it's a very sad time when the month of Ramadan goes. Unlike the youngsters, they can't wait for Ramadan to be over so they can hire out their flash cars and do all the haram, even after they gave up their food and drink for 30 days in the month of Ramadan. They wait for Eid day to do all the haram. For us, we wait for this month for whole 11 months. And it's a great time for us, and it's a time that we get closer to the Quran and the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a time when we are supposed to be reading Quran, but in the month of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, we increase our recitation of the Quran. And not only the recitation, it's such a great blessing to actually start to memorize the Quran. One of the rewards of memorizing the Quran is on the Day of Judgment, when you find out that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted you and blessed you and favored you and has given you the glad tidings of Jannah. When you start to enter the paradise, you'll be walking and you'll continue to be elevated in each level of Jannah in accordance to how much Quran you memorized. Now, if you're like me, memorizing only a few ayahs of Quran, you'll be at the bottom level of Jannah. If you memorize Juz Amma, Tabarak, and then a few juzes from the beginning, Surah Baqarah, then you'll be in a higher level of Jannah. And imagine the Hafiz of Quran, the one who memorized the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from front to back. Then he can tell you what verse of Quran you're reading. You give him one word and he'll continue reading that verse. I was testing it out with Anjum's son the other day, Abu Luqman. So I asked Luqman, where's this verse? And he gave me one word of the verse, and he continued to read. And alhamdulillah, so happy for him. And I was quite jealous. I was hoping that I can be like that one day, inshallah. And so here we have 10 ways to memorize Quran. Number 1, and you'll be surprised at this one, it's called ikhlas, sincerity. You have to approach this with the sincere intention. You're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not doing it to be called a qari. You're not doing it to be called Sheikh Abdul Rahman Sudais, oh what a beautiful voice. Rather, you're doing it to be for this intention, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you in the pursuit of Allah's happiness, in the pursuit of chasing the paradise, in the pursuit of staying away from hellfire. This memorization of the Quran isn't just like some words of a song that you're memorizing. Rather, it's a book of guidance. It's the Quran where you are able to read a verse of Quran and you understand it, you comprehend it, and when you want to do a haram, you say, hang on, I know a verse from the Quran which doesn't allow me to do this. And if you memorize Surah Yasin, many of you youngsters are blessed to go to some madrasas and learn the Surah Yasin by heart. And then you know there's a verse, it says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, did I not tell you, O children of Adam, did I not tell you that Adam, did I not tell you that shaitan is your worst enemy? So why do you follow him? So when you've got verses like this memorized inside your heart, how can you do a bad deed? When these words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are entrenched inside your heart, how then do you think of doing a bad deed? How then do you think twice? Should I go out with that girl? Should I smoke that cigarette? Should I drink that alcohol? Should I go to that gambling shop? Nobody's looking. Or in the month of Ramadan, I'm thirsty, nobody's in the house, let me have a cup of water during the daytime. All of this, you know, when you memorize the Quran, when you have this knowledge of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart, and if you're sincere to it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects those sincere servants of His, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who have ikhlas, mukhlis, so we can be entering the paradise, because one of those who enter paradise are those who are mukhlis. Another way that you enjoy memorizing Quran, which will help you memorize Quran, is to have the correct pronunciation and recitation. And subhanAllah, we've been born Muslim, and we've been alive for the last, coming on to 30 years now, and yet we still haven't corrected our tajweed. We haven't still corrected our pronunciation. Our recitation is very poor. And somebody who becomes Muslim, and even is sitting in front of me, and his pronunciation is much better than all of us. Non-Muslim only yesterday and today we're asking him to teach us our pronunciation. You have some sheikhs here who became Muslim at the age of 16, 17, and they'll teach you how to speak Arabic. They teach you how to recite Quran. They teach you about your deen. And even though we've been born Muslim all these years, how is it that they had 16 years, we had 16 years of head start compared to these people, but yet we're still lagging behind in the pursuit of paradise. I'm talking about Abu Izzuddin. The man speaks Arabic. The man has got pronunciation. The man teaches us our deen. And it's in a way, look at it. Why is it that we don't know what the man knows already? What have we done in the past 16 years of our life? What have we done all these days that have gone by, all these months and years that have gone by? What is it that we cannot all sit here where I'm sitting? Why do I need to have a piece of paper with words to tell me what to say in this talk? Why not just rolling it off my tongue? If it was some kuffar song, I could roll it off my tongue. If it was some poetry of Shakespeare, everybody who knows to be, not to be, everybody heard of it. If I give you a verse of Quran, I'm thinking, what is that? Is that Quran? Is that Hadith? Is it a saying of someone? Why is it like this? Why do we have this type of ignorance? And ignorance, the only solution to ignorance is knowledge. And it's not too late to gain this knowledge. It's not too late to change the situation. You have this time, it's not a depressing thing. When to get to your solution, to get to the answer, the halfway of getting to your answer is to recognize you've got a problem. To recognize there is a problem. To recognize what the problem is. Once you know what the problem is, then you know how to fix it. We know there's a problem that our salah might not be enjoyable because every day we're reading the last 10 surahs. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Qul a'udhu bin nas, Qul a'udhu bil falaq, Tabbat yada, all the way up to Alam Tara, thinking, yeah, I'm the man, I've got 10 surahs inside me. And then you're thinking, subhanAllah, every day for the last 30 years, I'm reading these 10 surahs in an alternate way. Should we not make the salah a bit more exciting, a bit more interesting by having more surahs that we memorize? There could be another reason why you start memorizing the Quran. And subhanAllah, now quite poignant, number 3 is to specify how many verses you want to memorize on a single day. Now this reminds me of a brother that I spent nearly 2 months in prison with in Brixton. And every day, while I'll be messing about, lying on my bed, catching some sleep, reading a book, doing whatever I'm doing, this brother will sit there for the 5 minutes, read 3 pages of the Quran, and he'll have it on lockdown. He'll memorize it. But if he wanted to, he can read 10 pages and he memorized 10 pages. But he stuck to this policy of what? 3 pages a day. I cannot even do 1 line a day for some odd reason. And that's because most probably laziness, most probably not sincere to it, most probably not having the attention towards it. But this brother in front of my eyes, he memorized 3 pages a day, and in 1 month, how many pages is that, brothers? 10 days is what? 30 pages. And in 1 month, 90 pages. So the brother in 20 days, he memorized Surah Al-Imran, chapter number 3 of the Quran. And he memorized Baqarah before he got to me, and while he was my companion in the prison for 2 months, he memorized Al-Imran. And what was his main goal for that? He knows the one who memorizes Baqarah and Al-Imran will have the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. You know what's so important having the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment? I'll tell you why. We have to cross a bridge on the Day of Judgment. It's called the Sirat. And it's described as thin as a hair and sharper than a sword. Now, if anyone's seen the circus or even on TV, the guys, the music in the background and walking across a tightrope, that looks dangerous. That looks serious. But where that guy, the clown, is walking on top of the tightrope, what's underneath him? It's a safety net. So if he falls, no big deal, because he's going to fall on top of the tight net. But where is this bridge? What's this bridge over? Alaykum salam, Abu Muwahid. What's this bridge over? The bridge is over Jahannam, hellfire. If you fall in there, you're in trouble. If you fall off any bridge, you're in trouble. But on this bridge, it's a different, completely different level, brothers. And so, the clown on the circus will have his light. The clown will have his little stick to balance him out. You won't have any of that. Rather, every single one of us who want to enter paradise know that we have to cross this bridge one way or another. No one's going to escape it. If we make it to the level of crossing the bridge, that's one thing. The second thing is to cross the bridge itself. And then you need to have the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you cross that bridge. Now, depending on how much you are sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are sincere to His deen of Al-Islam, that's how much light you will have on that day. Right, so if you're mukhlis, if you're one who did everything that for Al-Islam, for the sake of for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you didn't do it for showing off, you didn't do it for your friend said so and so, let me do so and so. My friend's going there, let me go there. My friend's staying here, let me stay here. Rather, my friend's going to the masjid, or I want to go to the masjid for the sake of Allah. I want to go to the masjid and pray in Jama'ah because I know my salah will be worth 27 times more than if I've just prayed at home like some lazy guy. So fix it up, fix up your intention, fix up your sincerity. Make your sincerity pure for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then what? Go out there and memorize Baqarah and Al-Imran. It took the brother 2 months, and like I said, he could have done it faster. But what did he do? And the reason why I got to this point is because he set himself a target of memorizing 3 pages a day. And so every month that passes by, I'm thinking to myself, subhanallah, I could have had 30 pages of Quran. And how many pages on like the regular Quran that we have? Around 600 odd pages. How many days does that take? Do the calculation. I'm not going to do it. I'm live on camera. I'm not going to do the calculation. I'll show myself up. But anyway, it's not very long. And so think about it. All these years that passed by, we could have been Hafiz of Quran. Then I'm looking to my bookshelf at home. I got the Quran on the top shelf. Then I got Tafsir Ibn Kathir there. Then I got Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari. And I'm thinking to myself, subhanallah, imagine if I knew the whole Quran and its meaning. Imagine if I knew Tafsir Ibn Kathir. And all it is some books that much, that wide, that many pages. How much will it help me to get to paradise? But yet we don't put our attention towards this. Yet the books are there collecting dust. Every time you touch the book, you have to wipe off the dust of the books. These are the conditions of our souls. And you wonder why we are in a situation where the ummah can be eaten up. They attacked Iraq, they attacked Afghanistan, they attacked Palestine, they attacked Chechnya, now they're attacking Libya, and then the Shia Rafida are killing Muslims on a daily basis in the hundreds every day in Syria. What's going on there? Every day we're being killed like battery chicken. How I see in a slaughterman of my profession, I used to kill 6,000 chickens per hour. And these dirty kuffar are killing the Muslims like that. 8,000 Muslims were killed in Bosnia in 1992. And nobody said nothing. Why? Subhanallah, brothers. It's a very sad state of affairs, but it doesn't need to be like this. Fix up. If you fix yourself up, and the next man next to you fixes himself up, everybody will be tight and solid. Shaitan cannot come through your way. Look at where we're living. We're living in the United Kingdom. We're living in Britain, Darul Kufr, where all these enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are leaving this country to go and kill Muslims around the world. But yet, where they thought they had us on lockdown, where they gave us enough pop stars and pop music, where they gave us enough drugs, they washed our hamlets with drugs. They're giving us the Jack Daniels, they're giving us enough alcohol in the borough Tower Hamlets, they're giving us enough gambling shops. But yet, look around us, how many youngsters have come in this room today? What? Rejecting their kufr, rejecting all the haram that they're giving us. We don't want their alcohol, we don't want their gambling, we don't want their drugs, we don't want their STDI girls. We don't want any of them. Rather, we'll do everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're happy to follow Al-Islam. We're proud to be Muslims. We're going to follow Al-Islam until the last breath leaves our body. Because we're going to say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah when we pass away. This is our intention. This is where we want to find ourselves every day of our life. Don't find yourself in a sticky situation. Don't find yourself in a situation that you're doing haram now, in the next hour you intend to do halal. Because you don't know when the angel of death is going to come for you. Angel of death is going to come, but we don't know when. That's the thing about our life. We're like a ticking time bomb. But the difference is we don't have the clock to know when it's going to go off. Our every soul will taste death. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ زَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Verily every soul will taste death. We have a date of birth and we have a date of death, but we don't know when it is. Who can guarantee me the day they will die, the minute they will die, the situation they will die in? But yet we're rolling as if we're going to die saying La ilaha illallah. We're rolling as if we're going to be dying as a pious, we're going to die when we're making sujood. How is that, and how often do you make sujood? How often do you swear, and how often do you make sujood? Look at the possibility, look at the probability. If you're swearing 1,000 times a day, and you're making sujood only 5 times a day, and the angel of death comes to you on that day, what's the possibility of what action you're doing? You don't need to be a mathematician, brothers. If you're doing bad deeds more than your good deeds, there's a possibility that you'll be doing a bad deed when the angel of death comes to you. So what to do? Stop your bad deeds, obviously. If every single deed that you're doing is good, what's the possibility of the angel of death coming and taking you doing a bad deed? So fix it up. This is what's in your hand. This is what you're in control of. You're in control of doing haram. You're in control of doing halal. Shaitan doesn't make you do haram, brothers. Don't get it twisted. Shaitan only inspires you. Look at that girl. Smoke that thing. Drink that thing. It's only shaitan. Who makes you pick up the alcohol? Who makes you pick up the split? Who makes you do all the haram? It's your own self. So don't blame no one but our own self. Now, if you want to fix up, who do you need? You don't need someone to push you. You do it yourself. You're here, mashallah. You made the journey from wherever you're coming from. Some came from local, E1 postcode. Some came from out of town, out of London. Some came from across the river. And so everyone made their journey to the path of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, point number 4 is connected to point number 3. Point number 3 is to set a limit of whatever suits you. And we have round about the Sheikh, when he done this topic, I remember Abu Wahid was there and myself was there, And Sheikh was saying memorize 3, 5, 10, 20 verses a day of the Quran. And this brother in front of me was memorizing what? 3 pages a day. Because he was able to. And he was able to do more. But point number 4 says what? Do not exceed your daily limit. Because once you do that, it messes up the pattern. And so there's not much to expand upon that. Is that if you've got 5 verses of Quran a day, don't do 10 tomorrow and then 6 the day after. Keep to your routine. SubhanAllah, even if you all can memorize 1 verse a day, in the month you got 30 verses. And I'm doing this talk for myself more than anyone else. Because the Quran now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who is not suddenly do a burst of good deeds and then stop all your good deeds for a long time. Allah loves the deeds that is a small amount but a regular thing. So if you're going to read Quran, look how many people are going to read Quran in the month of Ramadan. Everybody's searching where the Quran, is it ready? When the moon is sighted in the month of Ramadan, are we ready to read the Quran? Are we going to whack it at one time, cover to cover? Are we going to, in the 30 days, 30 juz, 1 juz a day? So you read the Quran, the whole Quran in the month of Ramadan, but when's the next time you're going to read Quran? Next year. That's not good enough, brothers. If you can't deal with 1 chapter a day, then do something smaller, 1 page a day. And then every day you do that and you love the Quran. Point number 5 is memorize from 1 mushaf. So if you're used to 1 Quran, let's say the Usmani print, stick to that Quran, stick to that mushaf. Yes, the Quran is, the words are exactly the same in every single Quran, but you become to have a photographic memory if you stick to the same Quran. And I came out and I thought I had the same Quran, then I looked at it, hang on, this Quran that I have now, the line's supposed to finish on the bottom of this page, but I actually carried on to the next page, and I messed up my memorization. So I went and hunted down for the Quran that I needed, and that's to help me to remember the verses that I memorized while I was in prison. Brothers, in prison you use obviously you're in a bad situation, but you turn the bad situation into a good situation, otherwise you're not going to ride prison. Prison is going to be very difficult for you. But we don't need to go to prison to memorize Quran. You have enough time here. Don't let it be in my situation where I had to go to prison to memorize more than 10 surahs. That's a very sad state of affairs. On this point I can tell you that the message from Rushna Chowdhury's family is that the sister, alhamdulillah, is doing well. And she's actually memorized the Juz Amma, the last chapter of the Quran while she's been in prison, and she's also memorized the first 7 pages of Surah Baqarah. Make dua for your sister, make dua that Allah gives us the ability to change her situation, inshallah. Point number 6 is understanding the mechanism of memorizing. Understanding the verses will definitely increase memorization and also increase your khushu'. It will make you focus. When you start memorizing the Quran, what helps you memorize is to understand what you're saying. And sometimes you can hear a word in the memorization, it says Jahannam. You should realize you're talking about hellfire. When you talk about Jannah, you realize the pleasures that are awaiting you. And all the brothers are talking about what times Abu Walid's talk tomorrow. What times Abu Izzuddin's talk tomorrow. It's not Abu Walid doing the talk, it's Abu Izzuddin doing the talk about Hur al-Ain tomorrow. So your brothers are talking about Hur al-Ain. The next time you're going to read Surah Naba'a and verse number 33. I think I memorized it. They will give you khushu'. And so you'll understand. You relate to every single verse of the Quran. And so when you're thinking, when you've got money in your mind, you've got business on your mind, you've got what food am I going to eat, I'm hungry, is a Somali food shop open around the corner, all of these thoughts get out of your head. And get the verses of Quran in your head. Get in the verses where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Oh you who believe, fear Allah." Oh you, and then over at the verses of Quran in chapter number 2, verse 214. When the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when is the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala coming? when is the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala coming? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied, verily the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is near. Now, if you're thinking you're down, you're depressed, you're thinking the situation of the ummah is so bad, then memorize these verses of Quran. Not only would it give you khushu', it will also boost your iman, boost your morale, and make you be able to put your head up straight and say, yes, I'm Muslim. Yes, you're doing whatever you're doing, but one day we will come and yes, you build the towers, you build the buildings, you're only making it for my car park when we take over. Continue doing what you're doing. You dirty kuffar. When you're memorizing Quran, point number 7, the Shaykh was telling us, is that if you started to, let's say, you memorizing verses from Surah Baqarah, don't go to Surah Al-Imran trying to memorize a verse from Surah Al-Imran. Continue the pattern. Continue going in the flow of the verses of the Quran. Complete the chapter, whatever chapter you're starting with. And that's why you find many of the time people start from the back of the Quran, people start from the Juz Amma. Because it's quite easier to say, yep, today I done one surah. Which one? Surah Ikhlas. Okay, alhamdulillah. Tomorrow you memorize Surah Kafirun, Surah Lahab, and it's easier to have some kind of accomplishment. Imagine you start off by trying to say, I want to learn verses of Baqarah. Next week I see you, brother, what are you memorizing? Baqarah. Next year I'll come back to you and say, you're still memorizing Baqarah. But obviously Baqarah is a very long surah. It's the longest surah in the whole Quran. But yet, just to increase your morale to say some kind of achievement, yes brother, I memorized 10 surahs, 11, 12, 13. So start from the back so you can have the numbers, not to show off, but just to show some sign of progress in your memorization. Number 8, do not listen to yourself all the time when you're reciting Quran. Listen to the other parties. Listen to other people recite Quran. Because sometimes, you know what, I've been reciting Quran in the hard way. I didn't have a tape recorder while I was in prison. I didn't have a CD player while I was in prison. I was in segregation while I was memorizing Quran. So even while I was in the prison, and I thought I have enough time to memorize Quran, when I was on the wing associated with other people, I didn't have time to memorize Quran. It had to be when I was by myself in 24-hour lockdown in a room by myself. That's when I come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's book. That's when I came to the Quran. That's when I was reflecting on Quran. And that's when I started to memorize the small surahs that I managed to memorize from the Juz Amma. But who did I have chance to listen to? Who was going to correct my recitation? When I made a mistake, I thought it was normal because no one's there to correct me. Well, alhamdulillah, the guy next door in the next room in the segregation, he was willing to come to the window, listen to my recitation. I was willing to come to the window, listen to his recitation. And we went on like that, and the kuffar went nuts. Number 9, and we're coming, that's the penultimate point. Is that the correct English word? And the last point before the main point is always recite Quran to yourself wherever you are. So now you're walking down to the shops. Some people might call you a lunatic, fringe, madman. He's saying, talking to himself, but no, brother, don't worry what they're saying. You're doing it for yourself. Because otherwise you're not going to find that time to sit down for half an hour, memorize Quran. Utilize everything. Dhikr isn't where you just sit down in a room, turn off the light and knock your head left and right. This is not zikr. When you're walking down to the shops, when you're walking from here to home, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Or you can say, recite Surah Fatiha, recite the surahs that you're trying to memorize. And before you know it, you'll be memorizing and you'll be eager to increase the verses that you wanted to learn, and so you complete that surah. Number 10, identify patterns of the verses. And when you start, this is something that you notice when you engage in memorizing the Quran. You can see that there's low points, there's high, and there's a tone to the Quran. And go back and listen to the Qaris. Listen to Qaris are worthwhile listening to. Avoid Abdurrahman Sudais is a fool. Anyway, but this is a different topic completely. And I won't go into that today because alhamdulillah we've got people who can teach us some beneficial stuff lined up now. So inshallah, I hope these 10 points have been beneficial to you as it's been beneficial to myself. Jazakumullah khairan wal akhirah da'wana walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Any mistakes are from myself, any benefit, any goodness that's come out from this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Jazakumullah khair. Can we have Abu Muwahid?